The film opens onto a warm, intimate scene. Kaya is in the kitchen. The morning light pours in through the windows as she gets the breakfast ready for her little brother. Still heavy-eyed from sleep, the little boy recounts a dream that he had whereby their mother visited him and showered him with kisses. Kaya listens with quiet strength. Beneath the surface, her heart aches. She smiles tenderly and assures him that their mother is still watching over them, ever protective. As she sets the breakfast down at the table, he expresses his wish to join her on her trip. Kaya promises him with a soft chuckle that she will bring him along on her following trip, but for the time being, he has to stay behind and help their father fix the boat. After having bid her brother farewell, Kaya walks to her father, who, leaning against the boat, works inattentively, lost in his own mind. His face is lined with sorrow, his grief raw and unsaid since his wife's demise. His drinking habit soon starts manifesting. When Kaya tells him that she's off to her friend Tessa, he reaches into his pocket to offer her money. However, she gently dismisses, acknowledging their financial distress. She sends him a tender goodbye, leaving him to his job as she prepares to make the journey. These are the moments when Kaya can enjoy brief instants of solitude, driving with the wind teasing through her hair, the road a temporary respite from the burden weighing her down. Upon arrival, Kaya receives a bear hug from her best friend. Excitedly, Tessa proceeds to describe her plans, a jet ski adventure. She insists on meeting her boyfriend Julian and his friend. Kaya shakes her head in disagreement and declares with a half smile that she is not into any hookups. The ever-playful one to urge everybody onto the dance floor. Tess urges her to lighten up and enjoy the moment. She reveals that she met the guys at a beach party. They're wild but full of energy, often filming their escapades to post online, adding an element of unpredictability to spice up their lives. Long afterward, they reach the beach cabin, and inside, Tess runs to hug her boyfriend Julian, sharing a passionate kiss. Meanwhile, Julian's friend Xander is immersed in preparing the jackets and equipment for the trip. Tess, beaming with happiness, introduces Julian to Kaya. He greets her warmly, mentioning how much Tess has spoken about her. Kaya's eyes find Xander, and for a short time, undeniably, a connection sparks between them, not to be ignored. As they finish the final touches, Julian informs them that they can leave for the islands in half an hour. An astonished Kaya asks where they will be heading, only to know that they are visiting the Bahamas. A wave of trepidation washes over her as she divulges her fear of a spur-of-the-moment journey. Julian confidently reassures her that he and Xander have made the trip 1,000 times before, and that she has absolutely nothing to worry about. Xander assures her in a very calm and reassuring voice that they'll be back way before the sun sets. Tess, with stars in her eyes, begs Kaya to go along with them. Kaya, after a small while of thought, exhales loudly, and, with her heart willed by the thrill of the unplanned, acquiesces to join the journey with them. Over the phone, her voice rings with enthusiasm as she relays the jet skiing adventure awaiting her to her little brother. Eager, he begs to come along, but Kaya reassures him, as does Tess in her sweet manner, that next time he'll go along. Kaya informs him that she'll be late and reminds him of the dinner waiting for him in the fridge. Tess, sensitive to Kaya's concern, wonders about her father, only to be informed that he probably is already working on his first six-pack of the day. Tess, being the good friend, prompts Kaya to let go of the stress and enjoy the day to the fullest before their fates take them back to their reality. The two women get ready for this unplanned island getaway, and Kaya jokingly asks Tess if she had any inkling about this spur-of-the-moment plan. Tess, with a sly sparkle in her eye, reveals that she did indeed know, but had kept it from her. Otherwise, she could immediately balk at the idea. Tess brings out 2 hand-carved bracelets in riotous color and pattern, the token of their unshakable bond. The two tie them onto their wrists. Shortly they join Julian and Xander, who are busily readying the equipment. They help the ladies with their life jackets and hook their stuff. Xander promises Kaya an action-packed day of turquoise and emerald waters, small hidden caves, and breathtaking scenery. But this will be one of those journeys that shall remain etched in memory, in ways unimaginable, one about to turn into an unprecedented nightmare. Julian and Xander reassure the girls that their skills add an extra layer of safety. The camera captures them mounting on the jet skis, Tess behind Julian and Kaya behind Xander. They go soft, silky whispers across the glassy, blue waters. They bask in pure pleasure, surreal views, and just perfect weather. Over their radios, Tess playfully reveals Xander's secret affection for Kaya. She goes on, further teasing about Kaya's need for a man in her life. The four break out into hysterical fits of laughter across the open sea. Off her discomfort, Kaya apologizes to Xander for Tess. However, with a warm smile, he reassures her that no offense has been taken. The group reaches the islands, where the warm sunlight and the calls of the seabirds strike them dumb. They feel astounded by the beauty surrounding them. Julian and Tess sit on the beach rocks, engaging in a lively discussion. Enthusiastic Julian informs Tess about his travel plans to visit Mayan ruins and caves in Mexico, and invites her along. She declines his invitation politely for fear of her father. A trace of disappointment crosses Julian's face, but soon enough, Teasing remarks and an exchange of flirtatious looks culminate in kisses of passion. Meanwhile, Xander and Kaya have a quiet, intimate talk. Xander discusses his big dream, to sail across each continent. Sailing, to him, is riding a magic beast propelled by an invisible yet tangible force. Kaya is captivated as Xander shares his vision of adventure with her. His gaze falls upon the bracelet worn on Kaya's wrist, which he believes is from her boyfriend. However, Kaya reveals that the bracelet is actually Tess's gift for her. Interested to learn more about the girls' friendship, Xander discovers that Kaya and Tess are childhood friends who grew up together, just like sisters. Both attended the same college, although Tess is studying marine science, while Kaya secured a swimming scholarship that gave her the opportunity for academic success. She is reluctant, though. Her commitment to college is poorly defined by personal struggles. She navigates her responsibilities for her younger brother and for a father lost in his own world of drinking since their mother's demise a year ago. The thoughts of going to college seem almost insurmountable. Her life is a balancing act among work and family obligations that make academic pursuits all but impossible. Touched by her story, Xander encourages her, recognizing how good of a sister she is. That shared warmth morphs into a spontaneous leap from the cliffs high above them into the blue waters below. The joy is palpable as they plunge deep into the inviting sea. The sun dancing upon the waves as they swim together, captured in the underwater world with colorful fish and serene beauty. Their hands meet beneath the water. The tugging that had been unseen underwater now manifests palpably between them, right up to an urgent kiss, sealing their burgeoning romance. This is short-lived, however, as Julian's wild streak soon comes into dominance, and he begins to take the jet ski to its limits, despite Tess's frantic pleas to be careful and to wear a helmet. It is in the complete abandonment of caution that Julian's downfall begins. The jet ski crashes into a wave, sending both Julian and Tess crashing into the sea. The helmet is ripped off an utterly bewildered, breath-starved Tess as Julian, oblivious to the oncoming danger, keeps whooping it up, loving literally every second of the ride. Kaya and Xander, closer than they have ever felt, are suddenly thrown into utter mayhem as Xander's distracted steering causes him to crash right into Julian's head. All go in the water, in a violent splash. Tess screams for Kaya and Julian in desperation. On the other side, Kaya searches for Xander. The two girls find him bleeding. Kaya and Tess cling on to the bleeding Xander in growing anxiety as they call out for Julian. Nowhere to be found. The minutes become like an eternity of exhaustion and desperation with the constant coldness of water on their bodies. Suddenly, another new horror develops in the form of an ominous shark fin cutting through the water, drawing closer with a predator-like calm. They begin to feel the full force of panic as the peril around them sinks in, and their cries for help are swallowed by its endless void. Then, the outline of a boat comes into view on the horizon, shining amidst the turbulent waters. The relief such a sight brings would fill their senses, though tainted by gnawing anxiety that their safety is by no means guaranteed. Ray is the man at the helm of the approaching boat, and it would appear, their only hope for salvation. His presence, comforting initially, would soon turn short-lived as unease settled in with the reality of the situation. His sharp, intent eyes scan the water through a pair of binoculars. He eyes firmly, in determination, after he spots the three teens. He steers the boat towards them. Meanwhile, Kaya and Tess scream for help, their voices hoarse from desperation. When the boat draws near, Ray hauls a weakened Xander out of the water first, who can barely move. He assists Tess, wincing in pain while clutching her stomach. Willpower drives Kaya, who manages to scramble her way aboard the boat and collapses onto the deck, breathless and shaken. Now safe aboard, yet still in the hands of a stranger, the feeling of relief is wrapped in nothing but uncertainty. Ray's demeanor suddenly shifts. He had been keenly listening to Kaya's frantic tale of the jet ski collision. Kaya's eyes dart anxiously, mentioning the disappearance of Julian, a friend. In the boundless waters, Ray's face remains expressionless while his eyes narrow down into a predator's curious stare. As Ray scans the horizon, his gaze becomes tight and unrelenting, but the sea shows no more signs of life. He presses Kaya for more information. Kaya, her voice trembling, affirms that indeed they were alone, having come from the islands and originally from the Keys. The tension on the small vessel becomes palpable, especially when Kaya's attention falls to Xander, who is groaning in pain with a head injury. Her urgent plea for immediate medical attention seems to spur Ray into action, or so she thinks. He reassures her that he will seek help, but as he retreats into the interior of the boat, it alarmingly appears to become crystal clear that Ray has absolutely no intention of calling for assistance. Instead, he merely stares at them through the window, his eyes cold and calculating. Gathering what little is left of her energy, Tess rises unsteadily and staggers into the cabin to get water for Xander. Kaya waits outside with him, trying to calm his rising anxiety. As the minutes tick by, Kaya's concern over Tess's disappearance hardens into a heavier-hearted feeling, something monumentally wrong. Pressed by the growing unease, Kaya leaves Xander's side and goes deeper into the dark passages of the boat. Her heartbeat quickens as she looks for Tess in the main room, and finds Ray, His demeanor seems calm, but her instincts yell that something is wrong. Ray tells her that Tess is in the toilet. Kaya forces herself to nod, but her thoughts can't shake the pervasive sense of unease. With Xander injured and Tess gone under mysterious circumstances, Kaya knows she has to continue to keep her guard up. Every evasive answer to the question of their arrival on shore opens up Kaya's anxiety just a little further, and Ray's reassurances do nothing to comfort her. In an instant, his manner turns. He dives and overpowers Kaya with ease. Efficiently, with a hint of brutality, he jams the chloroform-soaked cloth to her face. Immediately, the pungent-smelling chloroform invades her nostrils as she struggles. Blackness swoops over her and folds her onto the hard floor. When Kaya finally wakes up, she feels disoriented, overwhelmed by the oppressive silence of the unfamiliar room deep within the boat. After her eyes finally clear, she finds Tess unconscious beside her. Kaya at once stirs Tess awake, and both girls feel overwhelmed by their grim reality, being trapped, vulnerable, and isolated in the vast sea. They embrace each other, taking rapid, shallow breaths, their hearts pounding. As Kaya looks around for their possible escape, she sets her eyes on a narrow staircase and runs up the stairs with trembling hands. Kaya's anxiety grows as she tugs and shoves the door, each more frantic than the last. While Kaya searches around the room for any metal tool, Tess notices how the previous captives, in agony, had scratched the wooden walls with their fingernails in search of a way out. At this point, Tess throws herself into Kaya's arms, crying. Shortly afterward, Kaya resumes her search around the room for a means of escape as the boat heads off in an indefinite direction. As Xander lies wounded on the deck, in the blistering sun, he is in excruciating pain. The three of them are wrapped in a blanket of anxiety and fear. Kaya clings to a small rope made of metal, trying to shape and mold it into a tool that can be of some help for them to escape. Tess sleeps fitfully beside her. The room shakes as the doorway creaks open. Ray appears, lowering a box of food with a rope. His icy demeanor is in direct contrast to the fake show of concern he had shown earlier. Kaya asks him about his intentions and how Xander is doing. Ray is resolute that she should take the food. Kaya's questions about the medical help for her friends remain with no answers. She desperately brings up her young brother in an attempt to appeal to any remaining humanity in Ray. However, he is unbending. His irritability grows as Kaya runs up the stairs, imploring him to understand that her friends really do need treatment. Ray informs her that the doctor is on the way, not having a clue that this doctor is some type of crooked fake. Ray threatens her in case she disobeys him. They will have no food, no water, only to be harmed in the end. He shuts the door, leaving them in darkness once more, as Kaya's cries for help are drowned out by an eerie silence. In the following scene, we depict Ray calmly and icily preparing a meal on deck, feeds birds, and tastes his dinner amidst the chaos going on around him. On the other hand, while Tess is sleeping, Kaya, who is trying to put up with their situation, hears the humming of a boat engine and a horn from a distance, which turns into a faint ray of hope. In open water, a slick boat pulls in alongside Ray's, introducing a new character, Curtis, Ray's partner in crime for years. As Curtis steps on the boat, he catches sight of Xander lying on the floor, battered and unconscious. Curtis asks Ray what happened to him, and Ray describes that these injuries happened due to a jet ski mishap. Curtis asks Ray to give water to Xander, believing that he could be a potential gain. Kaya and Tess sit huddled together, knees up to their chests. Footfalls announce Ray and Curtis's arrival. Curtis introduces himself with calm authority, that of a medical doctor, asking about the injured girl. Curtis asks Tess to lie down. Despite a little reluctance on Tess's part, he persuades her gently. After a closer check, Curtis diagnoses her with chest trauma and a suspected rib fracture, much to her sorrow. Meanwhile, Ray pulls out a knife and threatens Kaya. The latter is quite unresponsive, her composure unruffled as he tries to provoke her. Finally, Curtis and Ray leave, but down below deck, Kaya and Tess are still within their dingy and frighteningly dark area. Curtis hands Ray a thick wad of cash for the horrific job they just pulled off. Curtis apprises him of his latest tie-up with an expensive clinic in Miami, catering to high-class clients. One of them needs a liver for his ailing daughter. Ray asks him about the 3 teenagers in the boat. Curtis states that the 2 injured ones aren't going to make it. In fact, Kaya is the best option. Therefore, he asks Ray to keep her in good condition. Curtis informs Ray that he is going to pay $5,000 apiece for the 2 injured teenagers, and he claims that it is the best deal he is going to get. Ray makes the sleazy deal while Kaya and Tess just sit around in the cramped prison cell, terrified and bewildered. Curtis wears his medical blouse with gloves on for the grim task. In front of him lies Xander on the table. Curtis picks up a pair of scissors and makes the first lines on Xander's body, a cold environment that harps on Curtis's evil intentions to harvest Xander's. While Curtis is anesthetizing Xander, Kaya, realizing how grave it is, screams desperately and bangs at the locked door to no avail. Curtis wraps Xander's deceased body in a plastic bag, throwing him into the sea, and puts Xander's organs in a small fridge. Kaya begins scratching on the hatch again with the metal rod, hoping to break through to allow Tess and secure their own escape. Later, Curtis and Ray open the hatch and break their way into the room. Curtis proceeds to take photographs of Kaya and Tess, while Ray roughly pulls Tess. Curtis lifts Tess into his arms, and they go upstairs. Kaya, in a fight with Ray, warns her to be silent. He throws her down and onto the bed, unconscious, whimpering. Curtis starts to prepare Tess for surgery at night, while Kaya continues using the metal rod to scratch at the hatch as she tries to force it open. After a lot of struggling, she manages to break free from the room, yet she moves cautiously, not wanting to get caught. Above, Curtis prepares his tools by drawing lines on Tess's body as she sobs and struggles. Still rummaging around for means to free herself, Kaya finds a crossbow. Now armed and ready for battle, she is out to face Curtis and Ray with the aim of putting an end to their horrific plan and saving Tess. Tess wrestles against the anesthesia, clings desperately to hold on to her consciousness. Just as the darkness would envelop her completely, Kaya bursts out of the door, her sudden presence a slice of hope. Resolute in her determination, she points the crossbow at Curtis. Her voice slices across the tension, ordering him to step away from Tess. Curtis takes a step closer, believing that she's bluffing. However, Kaya responds rather quickly and conclusively. The arrow finds its mark, burying itself into Curtis's body. His howl of pain echoes through the area as he writhes around in utter desperation, trying to remove the arrow from his body. In this moment of distraction, Kaya sprints towards Tess and pulls off the anesthesia mask over her nose, freeing her from the chair. In a final desperate move, Curtis lunges at Kaya, his hands clenching onto her neck in a fatal squeeze. Tess, with all of her might, takes up a knife and, with virulent resolve, plunges it into Curtis's back until he falls to the ground, defeated, deceased. Immediately, Kaya and Tess plunge into the cold, turbulent water, attempting to escape. Kaya, with an act of selfless bravery, hands Tess a life buoy to keep her afloat. As Tess clings to the buoy, Kaya presses on, her sights set on Curtis's boat, hoping it might offer a chance for escape or a means to signal for help. Ray finds Curtis's deceased body and is overcome with anger and dread. He runs up onto the deck, trying to turn the key and start the boat's engine. However, he fails. Realizing that Kaya had cut the cables, his frustration hardens as he starts to formulate a new plan. Out in the icy waters, Kaya and Tess struggle against powerful currents. Tess, who's all but spent, urges Kaya to abandon her and seek help. Reluctantly, she agrees, but promises to return for her best friend. Tess stays in the water, while Kaya swims with every last ounce she has towards the far-off boat. Finally, after what seems like an eternity in the water, she reaches the boat and falls upon the deck, panting. Once she composes herself, Kaya frantically searches for the radio and cautiously looks around the boat till she finds it. Shaking hands power the radio through static, screaming into it a frantic "Mayday." Her breaking voice asks for help. Her voice is quivering while she says her name and describes the unbelievable series of events they faced. Asked to provide the exact location, Kaya finds herself lost. The Coast Guard operator reassures Kaya that a rescue team will be in contact with her. They ask her if she has a GPS device on board. However, much to her unfortunate luck, everything is shut. They guide Kaya to look for a yellow device with an antenna. She further searches and finds a computer screen showing grim images of hostages in distress, depicting their story of suffering as Curtis used to sell them all around the world. A picture of herself among them scared her. However, determined, she resumes her search for the EPIRB. She desperately rummages for a flare gun, a momentary flash of hope in the wake of desperation. But the flare gun could only alert passing vessels. Resolute, she forges forward towards the EPIRB to secure their salvation. Kaya's fingers are shaking as she finally gets a hold of the beacon. The voice on the radio drones along, calm and measured, telling her to either dunk it in water or pull the red safety pin, unbutton the strap, and release the yellow bracket. Every instruction is far away, lost in the growing noise of water splashing and footsteps getting closer. Suddenly, Ray arrives. Kaya senses his presence. Her heart racing, she dives for the flare gun and clings onto it. She clatters down the stairs of the boat, trying to hide, but in the deafening silence, every noise just reverberates louder. Ray is seen with a knife in his hand, motioning through the shadows with cold intent as he attempts to find her. The radio again crackles, a question of whether the beacon has launched. Ray realizes that he is in danger, and suddenly in a flash, he brutally snatches Kaya from behind. The flare gun drops from her hand and falls to the deck, quickly followed by burning pain as Ray digs his knife deep into her stomach. She collapses to the floor, blood welling from the wound, breathing shallow and labored. A weak and shaking hand reaches for his face. Their eyes meet for a second. A spark passes between them in that instant, a swift flicker of regret, but it's gone before it has time to take root. Kaya doesn't stop with whatever minimal strength she might have left. The fingers inch their way to the dropped flare gun. In one last-ditch effort, she grasps it and fires directly into Ray's mouth. A flare bursts in a violent, fierce flame, eating him from the inside as he stumbles backward. His body jerks wildly before lifeless, falling onto the deck. Kaya hauls herself towards the side of the boat. Her vision blurs, and her limbs are like lead, but she knows the beacon is the only chance. With a final spurt of strength, she attempts to fling it into the water, but it falls precariously onto the edge. Despair washes over her as her strength saps away, but luckily the wind-whipped, steady, and unyielding, nudges the beacon over the side. It hits the water, emitting a beep, a beacon of hope in open darkness. At first light, the ocean guards locate the yacht still adrift in the water. Boarding with haste, they find Kaya pale, with a cold body, lying on the ground. The first guard checks her pulse. It's nearly gone, but it is there. They carefully lift her onto the stretcher while gruesome scenes paint the story around them. Ray's charred remains, lying contorted, his face burnt beyond recognition. They find Tess nearby, floating on the life ring, very weak but still breathing. They pull her aboard, and in no time, a helicopter pulls up and airlifts the girls to safety. Medics furiously work at trying to stabilize their patients. When they finally touch land, the ambulances are waiting for them. Very weak and passing in and out of consciousness, Kaya lies surrounded by medical personnel. It is the presence of her father and younger brother that keeps her anchored amidst the chaos. Her father's eyes fall upon her, his eyes brimming with the weight of his worry and regret. Once distant, consumed by his own struggles, he now feels like a much-needed pillar of strength to protect his children. Her little brother, with his face etched in fear and love, expresses his love towards her. The weight of months in separation is heavy upon them. At this point, none of those mattered. They are together. As Kaya is wheeled away to be taken care of, she catches sight of Tess a few meters away. Their eyes meet, and despite the exhaustion and grief, they share a wordless understanding. Yet the weight of their loss hangs heavy in the air, evidence of what they've paid in price. Both Kaya and Tess know that while they have made it through the worst, their lives have been irreversibly changed. The road to healing will be long, memories of what they've suffered set deep, but for now, they are alive, and that is enough. Whenever you go out jet skiing, have an EPIRB with you, and avoid any vessel that looks like it is auditioning for a horror movie. It is infinitely more fun to return home with all your organs, having a good yarn to tell, unless you enjoy yelling, "Mayday, Mayday."